Good evening, everyone. If I may ask that you all be seated. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending the forum for the search for Maricopa's next chancellor. This was a nationwide search that has culminated and resulted in our finalist, Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick. My name is LaKoya Shelton Johnson, your Vice Chancellor for Human Resources, and your facilitator for this evening. This forum, along with several other activities, including a student Q&A session, interviews with members of the Chancellor's Executive Council, which consists of college presidents and vice chancellors, as well as interviews with members of the Chancellor's Community Advisory Council, a session with the Maricopa Community Colleges Foundation board members, and final interviews with the governing board are all steps in the search process for the new chancellor. I would like to now review the format and ground rules of this public forum. The forum is scheduled for 60 minutes. The finalist will be provided 5 to 7 minutes to introduce herself and explain her background that has prepared her for the role of chancellor during this time of tremendous challenges. I will then ask a question about communication. I'll ask a question actually about leadership. After which, I will invite questions from the audience members. Questions will continue as time permits. If you have a question, you'll see one of two microphones here, and I would ask that you please stand in line at one of the microphones should you wish to ask a question. We are also video streaming the public forum so that the finalist is limited to a certain area on the stage. Microphones are available to ensure that all hear the questions. If you are attending via live stream, you may submit questions to the Chancellor search at domail.maricopa.edu. The link is available on the public forum webpage. As time runs out, I will ask the finalist if she wishes to make closing remarks for 2 to 3 minutes. Our timekeeper for this session is sitting in the middle row here and will signal the candidate to help us all stay on track. I request that you ask respectful questions and behave in a respectful and courteous manner at all times. Observers and audience members may come and go. If you do, please do so quietly. Please also remember to silence your cell phones. The purpose of the public forum is to get to know our finalists a bit better and to solicit your input. The finalist bio with a link to a feedback form has been passed out to you as you arrived. For those viewing remotely, the feedback link is www.maricopa.edu/finalist-feedback. Please be sure to complete the form online. The form is compatible for mobile devices, and the information provided in the forms is confidential. Please see the HR representative located at the exit door if you prefer to use a paper feedback form, and email the completed form no later than close of business today. All feedback comments will be collected and provided to the governing board for their review and consideration. Thank you for attending the public forum, and at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick, and she'll begin by introducing herself and explain her background to her prepare for the role of chancellor during this time of tremendous challenge.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Shelton Johnson, and hello to everyone. Thank you for being here today and taking the time to listen and ask questions. I'm going to put it here so I can maneuver a little bit in here. So I will share a few introductory comments as was requested of me, just so that you get a good sense of who I believe I am and the kinds of things that I espouse and how I do my job and live my life, and give you a sense of my philosophy. I see many familiar faces, so I think all of you, most of you know that I've been with the Maricopa system. I've invested 25 years of my personal and professional life to Maricopa. And all those years, with a little break in between when I became a mother and I decided to be a full-time mom for about 3 years, and then I applied again, I came back. All the years with Maricopa, I have demonstrated a very strong, unwavering commitment to our mission, fulfilling the mission of access to quality, high-quality education, high-quality programs and services, and above all, providing the right learning environments for our students to be successful. I have held positions of increasing responsibility since I started October 1st, 1991, in the Maricopa Center for Learning and Instruction, and then Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs in 2005. I was Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost since 2010. And then in March of this year, when the governing board asked me to be the interim chancellor, I've been privileged to serve in that capacity. I chose very early on in my life a life of service to public education, and especially the Maricopa colleges, because my personal and professional values are well aligned for the reason that community colleges exist. And I'll quote from the Truman Commission on Higher Education that issued a report in 1947 that gave birth to community colleges as we know them today. And they said the reason why we need community colleges is to provide equal opportunity for all persons to the maximum of their individual abilities and without regard to economic status, race, creed, color, sex, national origin, or ancestry. I believe the same things, and that's the reason why I've been here for 25 years. Also, my values, personal and professional values, are supporting the Maricopa core values of honesty, responsibility, respect, fairness, caring, and freedom. I have been, as a leader, I believe I have modeled the way by always speaking truthfully and candidly and openly. I have acted with integrity at all times. I expect excellence and accountability from everybody, and that starts with myself, very high expectations. I have demonstrated stewardship of public resources and judicious decisions made in all the units that I have led since 1991. I treat all people equitably and with dignity, and I have expected all people who work for me to do the same. I have supported and practiced shared governance, academic freedom, and the free and respectful exchange of views, never with fear for conflict. I encourage innovation, risk-taking, and creativity since day one. That was exactly my job in the MCLI in 1991. I believe I am a system thinker, a collaborator, a relationship builder, and a connector. And I strive always to listen to others openly, always trying to understand the stories behind the faces. So Maricopa is a system for which I care deeply, and the culture that I know and understand well since I'm one of us. And I would welcome the privilege of leading it to the next phase of its evolution. I respect the past, and I am part of the past, and I believe that it needs to be honored and celebrated, but it is time for a new vision for the Maricopa colleges as we set the future forth. Our system exists today in a very different climate than when the system was created in 1962. That's a lot of years back. We have declining resources, we have higher levels of accountability, and we certainly have high expectations that we meet the needs of the very diverse students and communities that we serve in new and different ways. So the new chancellor will need to set that vision while maintaining momentum and in some cases accelerating the implementation of the so many changes that we have, systemic changes in our system today. I believe that I am that person. I have the drive, I have the passion, I have the commitment to serve that I believe will be required for success. I want to be known as the reformer of current practices, the restorer of public confidence, the rebuilder of stewardship, the re-energizer of all people, and in that way unify the organization so that we're all focused on the key initiatives, not too many initiatives, but that we never forget the reason why we exist, and that is to provide access to high-quality programs and services that can help our students get a great education and achieve economic independence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harper-Marinick. And now we have one topic-specific question. After that, we'll open it up for the audience to ask questions. We're also able to receive questions online. The specific question that we have for you is, please describe your leadership philosophy and how you will inspire the workforce to move the institution forward. Also, discuss how you will influence external partners critical to Maricopa's success.
Thank you for that question. I think in my introductory comment, I made reference to a little bit of my philosophy and my style. I believe in open communication and frequent communication. I've always had an open door policy and welcome all people, all kinds of people in the institution to ask questions and share ideas. I said that when I spoke to students last week, 2 of the forums, and I've been getting emails that start with, you said you were open to questions, so here they are. So I've read the emails and I responded and I said, when I said that, I meant it. So thank you for taking the time to reach out. So that's who I am. As we say, what you see is what you get. I also believe that it's really important for institutions to have a clear vision and to have that vision communicated to all people in the institution, and their expectations, as I said, one of my values is high expectations and accountability for all. But I also believe that in that accountability, there's an element of celebration. I think that there is great work going on in our system, has always been the case. We can always do better, but there's great work, but we don't take enough time to acknowledge, to communicate that, and to celebrate. And to me, that's part of, an important part of getting, I was looking for you behind me. She moved. I didn't see you moving. For those of you who are watching, Chancellor Shilton Johnson was behind me. Now she's to my right, so I couldn't find her as I was making eye contact. I think that an important part of engaging the internal and the external community is making sure that people understand why we exist, what is the purpose, what is the vision, and what we hope everyone contributes towards that vision. I am an action-oriented person. Some may call me impatient because I have a sense of urgency about the work that we do. I welcome ideas. I am also very inclusive, but I do reach a point of saying, we've talked about it for a while and we need to take action and move on. And again, that's part of just the communication style. So I think reminding people constantly of the mission of the institution is what engages people and in the work and helps people have pride in their work. It's a constant reminder of why you get up in the morning. It's because we have thousands of students who are making great sacrifices to come to our colleges, and to them we owe great education, great attitude, and great engagement. That's the only way that we're going to help them be successful. The second part of the question was the engagement of the business community, right?
Yes, critical to Maricopa's success.
Okay, thank you. I think we do some of that now. Again, there is no blank canvas for anyone who becomes chancellor to say we need to create a whole new institution because, again, we have some good work going on. But I think what is important is reaching out to all of the partners that we have, including the business community, to understand their needs. Some of that happens frequently at the colleges because every occupational program has an advisory board, and the role of that group is to provide input so that our curriculum is up to date, and to ask questions of us as we serve our students and get them ready for the jobs that are needed in our state. But maybe we need to do similar types of engagement and advisory boards at the chancellor's level, and that's something that I am committed to doing. One thing that I have learned as I've been going through multiple events. This is my 9th event in 4 days. So I've learned to listen very carefully about what the community believes we do or should do. And I think as a chancellor, my commitment, if I were to be privileged enough to serve as a chancellor, is to reach out to all of the primary business partners to understand what else can we do, or what can we do differently, or what can we do new that we haven't done in the past. So it comes from the opportunity to know people, understand the needs, and listen carefully, and then our willingness as an institution to take those ideas and make them programs and take action about that's part of the mission, is workforce development. And how do we do that? We need to understand exactly what the needs are, and then, as I say, translate it to curriculum and courses, and our wonderful faculty are willing to do that.
Thank you again, Dr. Harper-Marinick. And now we will dedicate the remaining time to questions from our audience members and/or those individuals attending online. So as a reminder, we have microphones set up here, so if you would kindly step to a microphone to present your question.
Yeah, go ahead. The students were not shy at all.
Hola, María.
Hola, Jaime.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Bien, gracias. I have a two-part question. How do you see yourself in your role as Chancellor advancing what I think are two very important relationships for Maricopa? One, the largest growing demographic, the Latino demographic in the state, and two, our relationship with ASU. How do you see that moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, thank you, Jaime, for that question. I think what we are doing intentionally, serving the Latino students, is actually paying off. We have had an increase in the number of Latino students in our system every year by about 2 percentage points. Last year, that translated to about 47,000 individuals, which I believe it was almost 3 times as many as ASU, NAU, U of A combined. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do more, because we know that is the growing population. I believe it's about 60% now of students from K through 6th grade are Latino students. So continuing to make sure that we are providing targeted marketing, that we are welcoming the students, that the students understand what we offer for them, and that the colleges are ready to provide the right services. I mean, we should do that for all kinds of students, but certainly not ignoring what is the growing population. Also Latino students, if you look at the metrics that we track for our governing board, have actually been increasing performance in every single metric that we track, from course completion to certificates and completion and transfer and all of that. So whatever we're doing, we can do more. We shouldn't do less, obviously, but I do believe that we can see the difference now of all that intentional work that you're doing at the colleges, the faculty and the staff, and obviously with the support of the administration. The second question about Arizona State, I think everyone knows that I am a big champion of transfer programs, because as much as many students will come and get a certificate or degree and enter the workforce immediately after completing with us, we know that about 80% of the jobs in the state now and in the future will probably require a little bit more than that. And in many, many cases, it will be a bachelor's degree. So it is as critical to us to ensure that we have a very effective pathway to the universities as we do workforce development. We have, the model we have with Arizona State specifically, it's a national model, the MAPS, which is the Maricopa ASU Pathways Program. It is, the benefits to the students are the envy of many other institutions, and that's one of the reasons why I've gone around speaking nationally about what we're doing. So we need to maintain opportunities like that, where students know they have guaranteed admissions into the programs at ASU, that they have access to financial support, that they have access to dedicated advisors, and that together we increase the number of students that are completing their bachelor's, if not in 4 years, 5, no more than 6. And we can only do that if we have a very strong connection to the universities in the state. Primarily with ASU, physically, that's closer to the colleges, so that's where most of the students go. We have increased the number of students who transfer. I think it's not enough. I think we need to work with our students to make sure that they understand the importance of staying at the colleges, persisting, and then transferring, and then staying and completing. Those who do very well. Our transfer students many times do better than the students that begin at the universities in terms of persistence and completion of the baccalaureate in a very efficient amount of time. Yes?
Enrollment, enrollment has been down for several years. What's your plan to actually get it up? And my second question is, what do you think about Maricopa, Mesa, Maricopa, Scottsdale, Maricopa, Phoenix?
Yeah, I got the question, yes. The first part connected to enrollment, the enrollment patterns at the colleges kind of match the patterns of the economy going up and down. So when the economy is not doing very well, people come back to school to either start training for a career or re-careering. And then when the economy is very strong and people are out working, then people don't have as much time for college. So that's the pattern that occurs. So what's happening with our colleges is happening nationwide. Not all the colleges in the system have a decrease in enrollment. Estrella Mountain out west has actually grown, I believe, every semester with the exception of one for 14 years. But that is because there is a growing population in that part of town. So the responsibility for increasing the enrollment can't be the responsibility of the chancellor alone, because everybody at the colleges needs to own that with the chancellor. The chancellor sets the vision and the direction, but everybody at the college needs to do their part. So the chancellor may be out recruiting students, but if a student comes to a college and they don't feel welcomed, or they don't feel they have the support they need, then the students are going to walk away. If the students are trying to register online and the system is not quite working, then the students are just going to move on and go somewhere else where things are a little easier. So I think that the responsibility of the chancellor is to make sure that everyone who has a job that contributes to creating the right environment for the students do their jobs with excellence, so the students are easy to get into the system and stay and get the support that they need. And then the second part of the question was the initiative of branding the colleges a little differently. So I think that's what you were, yeah, thank you. So we've had what we call the branding initiative, and that is a consideration for changing the logo so that the fact that the colleges are part of a system is a little clearer, because the strength of what we do is going to come from the collective effort and not from the colleges acting independently. So that's what started that initiative, to make sure that the name of the college also includes the fact that it's part of the Maricopa colleges. So we are still working on it. We're still getting feedback from people and employees, and I believe others. I know that students were surveyed, so we are not going to move tomorrow to a new logo, because we would like to have the right amount of input before we do that. But I want you to understand what prompted it. It's just making sure the colleges are identified as part of the family of colleges in the Maricopa colleges, because it helps all of us to have a strong identity in the community, so students understand that there's a wide variety of offerings that they can access. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Ballmer, and I'd like to follow up on a question on some comments you raised earlier, particularly having to do with inclusiveness and transparency in decision-making. In the past, my experience has been those have been two areas where there could be some improvement in the Chancellor's office and administration. And I was wondering what your thought is, if you become the new Chancellor, what you could do, what steps you could take to improve transparency and inclusiveness in decision-making in the Chancellor's office.
Thank you. So some of the ideas I've mentioned, and I have to apologize, I think all the wind is picking up dust that's causing my allergies to not be very good for me right now. In terms of inclusiveness, I've what I have done in the past and I would do were I to be the chancellor is just about every decision that I have ever made has been a decision that has included many voices, faculty and staff and people from the community, anything from we have a new initiative, what should that look like, to we have a search committee to select someone for a position in the division that I led, and that has always been a very diverse group of people with many voices included. So I do believe in bringing people to the table right from the beginning to provide an opportunity for questions, an opportunity for ideas. That's what my definition of collaboration and inclusiveness is not that let's bring a group and when you come, there's a draft that looks pretty final, and then I say, do you like it? I usually say, let's have a blank piece of paper and let's start writing together where we need to go and what questions we have to consider. So that has been my style, and I don't have any reason to change that were I to be the chancellor. I think transparency is connected directly to open, frequent, honest communication. So there's nothing we do in the system that needs to be a secret. You know, this is a public system. So if we are in any way not communicating enough, or if it's perceived that we're keeping information from the public, then we need to change that. So that's my commitment, is that everything we do, we should be able to, in whatever form that is, media or digital or paper or meetings, we should be able to let people know why we're doing it, what we're doing, who's involved, and what will be the impact on the community if we make those decisions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maureen Zimmerman, and I'm currently the Interim Career and Technical Education Dean at Mesa Community College. I'd like to ask you to address culture change a little bit. How, in your role as a chancellor, would you help facilitate the culture change, for example, like in using data or truly being responsive to the notion of student success? So I know you've been here for 25 years and you've been involved in some of those culture changes, but could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you, Maureen. Well, culture is people. Culture is not an abstract concept. So to change the culture, we need to work with the people who create that culture. And as I said earlier, I don't believe the chancellor alone, it doesn't matter who the chancellor is, can change culture. I think the chancellor, through communication and through inclusiveness and bringing the right people and developing a common vision, that's how you change culture. So my part, were I to be the chancellor, is to set the vision, set the direction, and then get the right people included. But to really change culture, you all who are part of it need to change behavior and need to get engaged and ask the right questions. I model, I hope that that's the way you see it, data-informed decisions. That's part of my training. That's how I've always made decisions. I don't make arbitrary decisions. I may sometimes fast decisions, but they're not arbitrary decisions. I like evidence, I like data, and I'm a very thoughtful, reflective person, and I can model that, I can communicate that, but unless the people who are doing the work believe in that and do the same things, then the culture is not going to change. One person can't do that. But I have great faith in who we are as a system and the people who work here, because we have done great work. So let's all get on the same page, as they say, and have a unified voice of what's important to us. And again, what's important to us is those students who are coming with great sacrifices to the colleges. So as long as we keep our minds on what's important, I think we should engage and embrace a culture change, but it cannot be one person.
Got to put it down for little people. It's been all tall people so far. So I'm Reggie Monroe. I'm a faculty president at Chandler Gilbert in biology faculty, and you've served in your role in the various positions that you've held, working a lot with faculty, and that's what I'm most familiar with. But as Chancellor, what will you do differently to support the learning environment for the students in the classrooms?
I don't know that I would do much different things than I have done before, just because if I move down like about 10 feet from one office to the next. I am doing this work because I want to serve the students. The students come because we have courses and we have programs, primarily. They also need the services, but if we didn't have the courses and the programs, they wouldn't be here. And those courses and those programs need to be developed, taught, led by the faculty. So I'm very clear in terms of what mission critical is, and I've always been respectful of the role that faculty play. I've always had, as I said earlier, an open door policy. I don't see that changing. Obviously, the emphasis of what I do on a day-to-day basis would change from my former positions, but my commitment to communicating with faculty and understanding the faculty issues and helping from a policy lens and a resource lens, which is what a chancellor would do, not running the colleges, I wouldn't change that commitment to supporting the work that people like you do, Reggie, because you are part of the success of the students, and I'm pretty clear on that. Yes.
Hi, I'm Anik Nestman, the Director of International Ed here at MCC. And we feel Maricopa could be a leader amongst community colleges in the nation with regards to globalizing our campuses for the good of the student body, the faculty and staff, and the community. What is your vision for campus internationalization and global competencies, as well as supporting incoming international and outgoing study abroad students?
Thank you. Great passion, personally, because I was an international student, and I know the difference that it makes when you have the right environment to be successful. I've always been very supportive because international education was one of the areas that I provided supervision for in the past. So in a variety of ways, we have always encouraged faculty to internationalize their curriculum, either by going abroad. We've had faculty curriculum development opportunities. We've also have been very supportive of bringing speakers to our system who can help. Not everyone can travel, but we have brought people in to educate our faculty about what they could do. I am very supportive of study abroad, and I am proud that Maricopa does more study abroad opportunities than many institutions wish they could. So I think we've done that pretty well, and especially Mesa Community College, where we are right now, has been a leader in that area. But I do feel very strongly about if we recruit international students, then we have to have the right type of support at the colleges. I don't think it is right to say, let's just bring more international students, and then they come and they don't know where to go for questions. There isn't a department that can help them, because I knew how hard that was when I came in 1982 as an international student, and you don't know what questions you even need to ask. So I've always said the recruitment of international students need to go hand in hand with the support of international students. And if we're not willing to provide that level of support at the colleges with people that know all they need to know to support those students, anything from legal issues to where do you go find food, maybe from your nation, then we shouldn't recruit the students. But I'm very supportive of recruiting them if we have the right level of support. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for being here and opening yourself up for questioning, and I appreciate that. I'm a community member, supportive of education. Having said that, recognizing that any educational institution needs funding, unfortunately for our system here in Maricopa County, it has not done favorably. 2009, you had over $60 million that was funded for the community college. This last year, you have zero. What do you plan to do in terms of developing a healthy relationship with our legislators to convince them that if they want a workforce to be competitive, they have to fund it?
Thank you for that question, for knowing so much about our finances. You're right, we have now the wonderful amount of zero. So I'm going to answer your question in two ways, because we could do perhaps better work connecting with our legislators, but I'm not personally very hopeful that that's going to change the funding in the near future because there are other issues the state is dealing with. So I think we need to do two things. One is continue to do that. And even in my former role, before I became the interim chancellor, I have spent time sitting with legislators and educating legislators and going down to meet with staff from the governor's office. So I would just continue that effort, but that's not going to be enough. Because if we don't do anything new, then we're relying primarily on property taxes and tuition. And I'm not inclined to say we're going to be requesting an increase of those every single year, especially tuition, because then we price the students out of the system that was actually created to serve those students. So I think we need to look at other ways to increase the resources in a more entrepreneurial manner. We have limitations in what we can do or not do, but I think we need to look at what options we have. So one of the things that I would do were I to be the chancellor is to have a group of people from the community and some internal advising us on what are some of the options for public-private partnerships or anything else, fee for service, any other model that would generate resources that would not be dependent on the state, the legislators, the governor, tuition, or property taxes. I think it has to be a variety of things, not just focusing on the state, because I think the state doesn't have ample funds, and I don't see that decision they made of eliminating the funding actually getting reversed in the near future. Yes?
Hi, this question came in through the email, the Chancellor
Yes.
Search email. What are your top 2 or 3 objectives for the first year on the job?
Thank you. I actually have 4 things that I think I would concentrate on because I am not a new person to Maricopa. I don't need to do what someone from outside would need to do, which is to say I need 60 days to get to know all of you because I know most of you. So I can actually get to work. So 4 things that I've been thinking about and listening to the community. One is we need to strengthen our connection with the business community so that we become top of mind. When someone is thinking of opening a business, I want Maricopa Community Colleges to be top of mind. When a business is thinking we need to train our employees, I want that business to think first, Maricopa Community Colleges, and that's not necessarily happening as frequently as I would like to see that. So that's one of the things. I think that we need to continue to be more efficient in the use of resources. The resources are not going to duplicate. I just talked about we need to find different ways of bringing resources into the system. So we're going to have to look within and make sure that we have greater efficiencies in place. I also believe that we need to continue our focus on student success because while the metrics are improved and we have more students completing courses and coming back from fall to the next fall and completing certificates and degrees and transferring, is not enough. The number of students is it's a great number of students, but when you look at the proportion of students who come to us saying, I'm here to complete, or I'm here to transfer, I'm here to get a certificate, I think we need to continue to do the good work to increase that, the persistence of the students. And then I think we need to go back to the question on, the 2 questions on branding and marketing and imaging and how we as a system communicate who we are in a way that doesn't take away anything from the identity that individuals have with a college, because the colleges serve a community and people feel pride to be part of the college. So there's no intent to take anything away, but yet we need to communicate better what we do collectively as a system. So those would be 4 priorities that I would have for the first, I would say, 6 months.
Okay, I've got another one here.
Yes.
What is your opinion on the value of community and civic engagement for the community college district?
Can you repeat that question?
What is your opinion on the value of community and civic engagement for the community college district?
Well, the name of the system and the colleges is community colleges, so clearly engagement in the community and developing people to be engaged citizens is part of what our mission is. It's not just to train people for skills for a job. When you come to college, you're hoping that you're developing the full person and that people feel then an obligation to be very engaged citizens in their cities and the state and for the nation. So we have great programs in place. Maybe we can do more of them. Some of them are not necessarily inexpensive, so then we have to be thoughtful about how to do that. But we have a Center for Civic Engagement, and they work with students understanding public policy and understanding the role of government, and that is a very good program. I know we have the Model UN. I know that there's one right here at Mesa Community College, and those are programs that are specifically and intentionally addressing the engagement of students in understanding public policy, which I think is what leads to getting people more engaged. We also have service learning at probably all of our colleges, and we've been a leader in the nation in service learning. Started way back in the 90s at Chancellor Gilbert, and we are actually renowned for getting the students in service learning activities and actually producing great results with that. So same commitment I had before I would have moving forward.
Here, but
Okay.
what is your all-time favorite book? Why? What book are you currently reading?
Oh, I am a reader. I do read every single day. And I don't mean work. I do that at work, but when I'm away from work, in my personal life, I read. I don't know that I have a single book that I would say has been very influential, because I think books have been influential at different times in my life. And you know, probably more connected to what I read recently than what I read when I was a kid. But what I want to say is I've been reading my whole life. I come from the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is a very small place. It's actually a part of an island. It's not even a full island. So when you grow up in that kind of environment, you escape from your immediate reality. And for me, that came through books. So I've been reading. I read anything. When I was a kid, I would read anything, including the dictionary, the phone book, whatever was available, because that was one way for me to think of something outside of my current environment. I just don't have a favorite book. I like all books, some better than others, but again, different stages of my life were influenced by different books. Hi, Ton.
Hi there. Good evening, Dr. Harper-Marinick. Thanks so much for coming out. As you know, I'm Ton Hypley, and I'm education faculty here at Mesa Community College. And I've always known you in the years that I've been here as a champion for teacher education, and I've really appreciated that. And one thing I heard you say earlier that kind of caught my attention was you see your role as using your role to help with policy and resources and providing that to us here at the colleges. And in the teacher education programs at the colleges, we serve first-generation students, we serve non-traditional students who are often the ones who are so altruistic and they want to make such a positive change. So in your role as Chancellor, what is your vision for us in the community college in regard to our teacher preparation programs? What do you see our role as being, and how can you use your role as Chancellor with policy and resources to help us do a better job?
Yeah, thank you, Ton, for that question. I think there are two important functions that we have in our teacher education programs, which, by the way, when Maricopa colleges became involved in developing teacher education programs, we were actually pioneers in the nation for community colleges, because it's traditionally programs that are offered by the universities, because you actually need a bachelor's degree to be a teacher. So we have become a very critical feeder into our universities because of financial conditions of many of our students. We are affordable. It's not secret, it's simple math that is less expensive to come to a community college and then transfer to the university. So we played that role. I also know from conversations with the universities that the diversity of the students that we train in our teacher education programs doesn't match necessarily the diversity of the students who start at the universities. So if we want to have more teachers in the classrooms that look like the kids that they're teaching, we play a significant role in creating that pipeline. So I've always been committed. I am a teacher. I was trained as a teacher. That's how I started my professional life. So I remain committed. I believe we have right policies in place. If we ever need to change them, you come and talk to me and we'll do that. We've been very supportive of the teacher education programs, including raising funds to provide scholarship for the students and allowing the students to travel to national conferences. So I will, I don't have any reason not to do that moving forward, were I to be the chancellor, but we play a critical role in creating the workforce in teacher education for the state of Arizona, because the universities alone can't do that job. There's more teachers needed than they can produce. So our partnership with all of them, including the private universities, is important for that reason. But thank you for the work that you and all of our teacher education faculty do. Anything else?
All right, this question asks, Michael Crow has made the statement that ASU will become a student-centric organization, not a faculty-centric one. Can you comment on this statement?
Well, I'm not going to comment on, I don't know what Michael Crow said because I didn't hear him say that. But I'm going to tell you what I believe centers for learning are, and that is student-focused. I think that the faculty wouldn't have a job if we didn't have students that want to have courses and want to have programs. So, as I said earlier, I've been very clear on the mission of the colleges is just like it is the mission of the universities, is to provide access to education. But that's student-centric. A lot of our colleges, all of the colleges have done a lot of pretty much good work becoming learning-centered. And that is, again, putting first and foremost, what are the needs of the students, programs that we have and where the resources go need to support the development of courses and the development of faculty. So I think the model of faculty-centric institutions started shifting. It's been about 12, 15 years now when people understood that the business can't be about we, the people who provide, but about they, those who receive, and that's what being learning-centered is. So it's great if Dr. Crow made that statement, and ASU is moving in that direction, but we've been moving in that direction for the last 10, 12 years.
What can you do to help the disability students on campus, as well as help them with scholarships? Because one problem I have is I'm out of funds, and one of my classes I'm trying to go for is CNA, and right now you guys don't even have it.
Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time thinking about that, and thank you for sharing that. So I hope to work more closely with our foundation. The foundation needs to also diversify how they raise funds. Community colleges can't rely as much as the universities do on an alumni base because a lot of the students don't have that identity as alumni of the colleges. So we have a new president and CEO of the foundation, and I have already had a conversation with her, Christina Schultz, to make sure that the foundation increases the amount of funding coming in for students so that we can support people like you. I wish we were bringing in millions of dollars. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. But please reach out to the people at the college to make sure that if you need support, they may have ideas about sources of funding that you may have not thought about up until now. But yeah, that is something that is of great concern to me because I know there are many students that would want to be with us that can't afford it. And not everyone is going to get financial aid, and not everyone may get a scholarship. So it is a great concern because we are supposed to be the affordable option for students.
Mario Castaneda from Gateway Community College. Just recently, the Maricopa system started to think about Center for Excellence. What is your vision for Center for Excellence in Maricopa system?
Thank you, Mario. That's a good question. What we've been talking about and what I would envision would happen is that there are areas, industries in the state where the business community is expecting maybe a certain level of delivery, maybe areas where there is equipment that is expensive, so that we wouldn't be opening a center or offering that opportunity for training in every single college because we wouldn't have the resources. So when we talk about centers of excellence, is there a place or is it 2 or 3 places that can serve the county and yet leverage the resources and seek investments from the business community to help us put in place the center. A great example of what that can look like is right here at Mesa Community College with the Center for Advanced Manufacturing. So in the case of Gateway, maybe you can create a center of excellence in water management, but I know that's your area. So that's what the notion is unique areas where there's a great need in the state, resources are needed, and it's not necessarily, we don't have the capacity to offer that in every single location or college. So how do we consolidate resources to still meet the needs of the community and not disseminate the effort in such a way that we wouldn't be meeting the needs of the community because we won't have the resources to buy equipment for every single location. So that's the concept of what the centers of excellence would be. Industry-driven is number one factor.
Thank you, Dr. Harper-Marinick. In 2008, your predecessor instituted something called One Maricopa, and along with Maricopa Priorities, attempted to look at how the district was structured and accomplished the goal of serving students. As enrollments have declined both across the district and at some colleges and some in a rather severe manner, some have suggested this is an opportunity with a new chancellor to take a look at structure and organization and leadership and how the district is being led. Others have indicated that it's not an opportunity but a need. I'd be interested in your perspective on that, of one of declining enrollments in the district and maybe the opportunity for reorganization.
Thank you for that question, Cameron. I think we need to do that even if we didn't have a One Maricopa effort going on, because as the resources are becoming more and more scarce, then we need to make tough decisions about how we continue to serve. So that some of that may be looking at what is the structure at the colleges, what is the structure at the district office, and who are the people who are needed to continue to lead the system forward. So all of that could be a conversation to be had. It's not a conversation that we have had. There's certain things that an interim chancellor just doesn't decide after 1 month in the job. But certainly, I believe there's an opportunity to consider many things. Structure is one of them. The consolidation of programs is another one. The part of the One Maricopa was facilitating the intake of students at all the colleges through technology. We still need to get that done. So there are many things that should make us a stronger system, and I think we need to talk about all of that. And if the enrollment is going down and we have very limited sources of resources, as we mentioned before, then everything should be on the table. And that would be my approach.
I believe we have time for about 2 more questions.
Okay. One thing we should do is we should try to hit the high schools better, as well as advertising. One thing we have not done is video on TV advertising, as well as we should also do events. Like one big one is like Comic-Con.
You have a lot of ideas. I think I need to have you on my advisory committee. So you're right. I think we need to do that. I think we also need to be very thoughtful about how we invest money in advertising. I believe in advertising targeted populations. I believe in segmented, marketing. I don't believe in just let's put something on TV and see what happens, because many times the people that we're trying to recruit are not going to be watching. And I get that input from my kids. It's like, who were you thinking was going to be attracted by that? It's not us. So anything that leads to better connection with the potential students, including K-12, including students in high school, that's not the only population that we need to market to, but I think it's an important population. I agree with you. We should be doing that, and I'm seriously. I mean, you have a lot of good ideas. You need to find me and share them.
All right, I'm going to paraphrase here a little bit, but it's basically asking you to comment on the Arizona Republic article about executive compensation and the undocumented expenses and so forth, and what your plans are to reel in executive salaries.
So as soon as the article, came out and we were really looking at what else do we need to do, we decided to change, and with that work through human resources, the way that the compensation for executives is designed. So if undocumented expenses is hard to justify, then that shouldn't be part of it. Personally, I decided not to take that. So in my current compensation, I do not have undocumented expenses as part of my salary. So we are looking at what are the other ways, and looking at other institutions that have good compensation models to see in what way do we need to do it. But we have to remain competitive. And we have presidencies open, we have vice presidencies, we have faculty, and we want to hire the best people to work in the system. So part of the balance is understanding what is the national, what's the average salary, and then what can we afford as a system to attract the top candidates, because that's what you're expecting when you have someone who's going to be leading you. You are expecting the top candidate. Well, people like to be compensated. So it's not an excuse for paying people more money, but it needs to be a fair compensation model if we want to move the system forward. And that's work that the Chancellor would be doing with the collaboration of the Human Resources Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Dr. Harper-Marinick, and thank you everyone here present and online for all of your questions. And now we would like to afford you a few minutes for any closing comments.
Thank you. I'll say thank you to all of you for coming, and thank you for all of the questions. I know there are probably more people watching on video than I know, because I get the comments afterwards. So thank you to all of you who are taking the time to do that. I am very committed to the system. I know the system. I know what needs to be changed. And I have the advantage of being someone who understands the community, who understands a lot of collaboration with the universities and K-12. So I think have a little bit of an advantage where the governing board make the decision to appoint me as the new chancellor. I am proud of my connection to Maricopa. I am proud of the work that I have done. And I will remain committed to public education and serving students, because that is a lifelong commitment I have made, regardless of whether or not I am the next chancellor. But hopefully I have an opportunity and the privilege to lead the system as the system moves to the next phase of its life. And thank you, Vice Chancellor, for all the work that you have done, and thank you for timekeeper. I seem to not even look at you, ignoring you. But hopefully I stayed within the time, but it has been an honor and a privilege, and it will always be, to be affiliated with the Maricopa Community Colleges. Thank you very much.